Hello friends, we are now examining, according to Dr. Johnson, one of the chief merits of Shakespeare's plays, just and faithful representation of nature, and we have seen and its various dimensions, the characters, the plots, the language, the scenes, the combinations. And now we see the mingled drama. Mingled drama is also a representation of nature, isn't it? Because in nature you don't find tragedy separately and comedy separately. No, it's a mingled you get. No? Tragedy, someday in the class you can say, someday the class begins with the tragedy and then ends with the comedy. Ends as a comedy. Suppose there are questions that are asked and you are unable to answer, then that is tragedy. At the end of it, you answer all the questions, then it is comedy. Isn't it? That way you can say. Dryden, in fact, he supported tragicomedy. The French, they were allergic, they had an allergy to tragicomedy, that is mingled drama. Shelley, in his defense of poetry, has given gives the supreme example of tragicomedy as King Lear. That is wisdom and delight. That is what he says. Wisdom and delight. That's what when he is referring to King Lear, he says. Wisdom and delight. And then you can see his Shakespeare's plays are neither or either they are, so you can say either tragedies or comedies in the strict critical sense. You cannot say they are tragedies or comedies in the strict critical sense, because the composition is of a distinct kind. Shakespeare's composition is of a distinct kind. You find good and evil, joy and sorrow, variety, innumerable models of combinations expressing the course of the world. Isn't it? That's what you find. You find good and evil mixed. You find joy and sorrow. A serious play like Hamlet, you have got a gravedigger scene. Then you have got the potter scene in Macbeth. The fool and company in King Lear. Barbancio, you can say, no? His behavior and so on. You can say it's a comic, so to say, relief, it gives relief in Othello. Yes. So good and evil, joy and sorrow, variety, innumerable combinations, this is what you find. You find people reveling and drinking wine, or drinking wine and reveling. Also you can see the mourner burying his friends, that man. So you find both revelry and burial. Malignity is sometimes defeated by a frolic of some. You find Malvolio, dwelling of Malvolio. And that itself is a comedy, but within that you will find frolic of some. Many benefits and mischiefs you find hinted at and also done in comedies. Benefits are hinted, mischiefs are hinted, and these are done also. It's a chaos of mingled purposes. A Shakespearean drama is, you will look at it, you find a chaos and mingled purposes. The interesting thing is that Greeks or Romans, they never, as the same author, never attempted tragedy and comedy. Either they wrote tragedies or they wrote comedies. But in Shakespeare it is not like that. Shakespeare united the powers of exciting laughter and also sorrow. Not only in one mind, but in one composition. Very important to know. It's not only in one mind the same person, but in the same composition you will find. So you can say this is a departure from the ancient dramatic tradition. The Greeks and Romans, if we can name, there are people who wrote comedies, and there are people who wrote tragedies. Never mingled drama. So in that way you can say this total, a complete separation you can see, difference that you can see. Understand? In the successive evolutions, see, the scenes, almost all these scenes are divided between serious and the ludicrous characters. As they evolve, what happened is, they sometimes produce seriousness, they are very seriousness, they show seriousness, and also they show sorrow sometimes. Sometimes they are serious, sometimes they produce laughter. Understand? So a practice contrary to the rules of criticism. If you take the rules of criticism, those days, that I have already told you now about the ancient practice. The same person would never attempt tragedy and comedy. So definitely it is against the rules of criticism. Although Aristotle was not against this. Because what Aristotle was trying to tell us was the end of art. The end of art is delight, pleasure, pleasurable sensation. So pleasurable sensations can, of course, it can come through either direct comedy or through catharsis. That can be. So it is what we can see, that the end is instruct, please and instruct. Shelley says in Defense of Poetry, wisdom and delight. Shelley says. Horace says, you remember already we have seen Horace, utile dulce. Utile means useful and also sweet, delicious. So the interchange of mingled scenes seldom fail to produce the intended vicissitudes of passion. It is there. Sometimes what happens, it sharpens. As in the case in Hamlet, Porter's scene. It sharpens the tragic effect. The disturbance of one may be the relief of another. It can happen now. Disturbance of one may be the relief of another. What you do sometimes in the classroom, you remember small students in the class, you will write a label and paste it on the back of your friend sitting just in front of you. Monkey. Then all of you laugh. That's the disturbance for the boy on whom you paste this label, but for others it is great happiness. Isn't it? So the disturbance of one may be the relief of another. Upon the whole, there is pleasure. And pleasure, as you can see, consists in variety. Variety is the spice of life. Suppose all the time tragic. All the time only comedy and comedy. Then what happens is, you get, in a way you get bored. Yes. So then this is, the mode of composition of Shakespeare is totally different. It is the mingled drama, you would never have thought of mingled drama, say, in ancient days. But this is something different. So what people used to define, comedy means ending happy, tragedy means calamity. And chronicles, so history means chronological list. This definition is not correct. Comedy just means happy. No. Shakespeare's mode of composition was totally different. It was the interchange of seriousness and merriment, softening and exhilarating. Shakespeare's plan and method, if Rhymer and Walter knew, or they spent some time studying the plan of the method or the design of Shakespeare's plays, all their criticisms will vanish into thin air. Hamlet opens with the two sentinels. Othello Barbancio bellowing at, Iago bellowing at Barbancio's window, and Polonius comic as well as serious. He's a seasoned verse. At the same time, his pronouncements are very, you can say something, means gives comic relief. See, when he says, there is method in madness. See, there it is, he communicates some very important thought as far as Hamlet is concerned, but at the same time, it's method in madness. What does that mean? It's a kind of, it is he is trying to pull the leg off, means tease Hamlet and his way of behaving. Because he also knew he is not mad actually, but he was only pretending. Listen. So this is how things proceed as in Shakespeare's plays. Another thing that we must understand is that Shakespeare did not, he opened, in fact, what happened to him is there was nothing before him. Nothing before him, no rules, no critics to restrain him. The public opinion was not yet formed, nobody to guide him, and himself was not, as the tradition goes, he was not a well-educated person. Isn't it? Small Latin and little Greek. That's what we know. According to tradition, he ran away to London, and there it's a kind of, he went to London for a living, not to go to a higher institution of higher learning, or to attend Oxford, or university education or anything. And you can see for some time tradition, according to tradition, he even earned his living by doing menial jobs in today's standard, if you can say. So he had nobody to direct him. Public opinion was still unformed, as we have seen. 16th century still developing only, and there was no critics to restrain him, limit him. But at the same time, you can see that the tragedy, his natural, you can say, his genius, so to say, it is for comedy. Shakespeare's genius is for comedy and not for tragedy. You can see. His tragic scenes are labored, says Dr. Johnson, but his comic scenes are luxuriant. Comic scenes are luxuriant. He luxuriates in comic scenes, in comedy. But tragic scenes, he labors. Difficult for him. See? Tragic scene, something is wanting. But in comedy, you find the expectation and desire. Comedy surpasses expectation and desire. Tragedy, you need skill. But in comedy, you need instinct. Comedy is instinctive to Shakespeare. Comedy, you have thoughts and language. Tragedy, you have incidents. See that? So, whatever it is, ultimately when everything is said and done, it is tragic comedy or mingled drama is the just and faithful representation of nature, and therefore it's eternal, it remains even now. It is valued even now. And Dr. Johnson conveys like this. Flood heaps, flood, he says that he says it is natural and durable. And he says that the sand heaped by one flood is scattered by another, but the rock remains. Sand heaped by one flood is scattered by another flood, but the rock remains. And what is the rock here? The rock is the just and faithful representation of nature. Therefore, what happens is that it is durable. And Shakespeare is, Dr. Johnson concludes this section, the most original masters of our language. He says one of the most original masters of our language, that is Shakespeare. As comedy needs play of language, conceits, thoughts, then language is most important in comedy. But tragedy is incidents, as we have already seen. So, this is also, we can say, one of the excellences of Shakespeare, Shakespearean drama. Characters we have seen, scenes we have seen, expressions we have seen. We have also seen a series of proverbial expressions. It was said that each of the statements, chorus of Aeschylus is a proverb. But when you see here, you get a heap of them. You find whatever in some days you find, if you read the wisdom literature, proverbs in the Bible, scriptures, you will find most of this reflected in Shakespeare, and again reciprocated against, Same thing you can find in the book of the Proverbs also. So, from there what you understand is either Shakespeare might have read it, or those who wrote the book of Proverbs might have borrowed from Shakespeare. Which one we do not know. So anyhow, what happens is that the worldly wisdom, for a mini encyclopedia of worldly wisdom, you need not go anywhere. You can collect it from the place of Shakespeare. Either tragedy, comedy, or histories. Understand? And then Reimer and Voltaire, they criticize him. Because they said that, and many other critics also. See, for example, in Dryden there is a section where tragicomedy is criticized. And you find other critics also doing the same thing. And Pope is not very favorable to tragicomedy, although he is not totally against it. Anyhow, what is the end of fine art? The end of fine art is pleasing and teaching. Teach with pleasure. And this he attains in the most superb manner in his dramas. So one thing we must understand, as Dr. Johnson says, his dramas are not Shakespeare's plays are not strictly comedies, they are not strictly tragedies, but they are mingled from. Even history, he says. See, you have got first up. History play, in a history play. The supreme example of a comic character. So ultimately we can say that Shakespeare's genius was for comedy, not for tragedy. As Dr. Johnson himself observes, in his tragic scenes he labors, and in his comic scenes he luxuriates. That was his instinct. So he cannot but mingle comedy with tragedy. So we cannot find fault with him. If you know the mind of Shakespeare, Voltaire and Reimer, they should withdraw their remarks which they made against the mingled drama. The French we are not much bothered, because as Dr. Johnson has already said, if you consider the correct drama of the French, it is a clipped hedge, while Shakespeare's is a forest. It's variety. And after all, variety is the spice of life. I hope you are following me. So how Dr. Johnson has supported, given full support to the mode of composition of Dr. Johnson. We have seen here. So the reasons given, one is life is like that. Second, there is variety. And third, he can teach and please. Four, that is Shelley's wisdom and pleasure. Five, that is his genius. Five, that is his genius. And six, it is you find in a way the microcosm of the world in his place. Understand? The world you see. And he says, whenever he got chance, he indulged in his natural disposition. Now it is eternal. Shakespeare was not of an age but for all times. So that is what Johnson describes, tells us by giving an example. He said, the flood, the land, the sand heaped by one flood is scattered by another, but the rock remains. The rock means that is Shakespeare's drama. Hope that you are following me. The next classes we will see what are the faults of Shakespeare. That's why Dr. Johnson says in the beginning, if you do not speak or refer to the faults of a person, if you just go on praising and flattering, people will not believe you. Because everything has got two sides, like the two sides of a coin. I hope you are following me and enjoying. So we will see again till we meet again. Bye. Have a nice day. Enjoy yours.